All right, welcome to MarketProof. I am Dan Francis. I am the CEO and co-owner of StepStone Realty. We're a real estate brokerage, just like any other real estate brokerage, except that we specialize in sponsoring investors who have their license, like my good friend Jon Barr over here, who's one of our supervising brokers, investor agent, and his partner Jon Barbera are joining me today. Thank you guys very much for coming to, I think, our prize agents team as part of StepStone. We're really excited about all the things that they do. They really help us out a lot. I can't thank them enough for all that they do, including being here today. But why don't you guys just tell us a little bit about you, what you guys do, and we'll kick it off that way.
Take it away.
So, we're PRYME Homes, and we specialize in traditional, in real estate investing, mostly wholesaling. That's how we got started. We transitioned to flipping, new construction. We currently hold 14 rentals. We've done pretty much every strategy out there. We've, hit every single wall that's been put up. We've definitely learned the hard way how to get started in real estate, but we perfected our way of doing it, which is we're really good as when a property comes in, we're really good, and this is mostly what Barr focuses on, is making that deal make sense, however that makes sense. So we use a lot of strategies. We're not, we only do flips. No, we do whatever makes sense. If it's a subject to, if it's a wrap, if it's a flip, if it's a wholesale, buy and hold, short-term rental. It's like, what is the market asking of that deal in that moment? And I think we've done really good at monetizing that strategy.
I mean, that brings up, kind of my next question, which is we've seen a change in the market. Interest rates are up, sales are way down. How has that affected your business?
So first, what it hurt, it didn't hurt us, but where we saw a big change was start of the year is when the new taxes came out, and we had investors reaching out to us that they've lost most of their cash flow on their rentals because their taxes shot way up, right? So we made some adjustments. We started realizing that's like, all right, buy and hold investors are really not going to be the people we're going to want to cater to moving forward because they need to leave money in the deal. And a lot of buy and hold investors that we know, they want all their money back out. They're using the traditional, the typical BRRRR strategy where they buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat, right? The refinance, they want all their money out. Right now, it's like if you get your money out, you're not cash flowing.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. We've really stopped focusing on your traditional buy and hold neighborhoods because the money that you have to leave in a property to get cash flow, it's like you're talking tens of thousands of dollars to be able to get your stuff out to where our offers would have to be so ridiculously low that any fix and flipper comes out and you can outbid us by 40, 50 grand. So it's like we've definitely targeted more like the fix and flip style properties just because buy and hold investors right now are just crushed with the taxes, the interest rates and rents are rising, but they're not rising as fast as everything else.
And then even in how we bought up properties, we've tweaked our model of properties we want to buy because we saw also the buyer pool go way down on the retail side for as how aggressive they were in the last couple of years that they will buy anything. And now it's like, the buyers are pickier. Yeah. You got to go back to what we used to do was much higher quality level rehab, staging our properties, making sure you're putting everything looking beautiful. Where before we were okay with just cleaning the house and putting it back on the market because they just needed houses.
Yeah, that's a big thing, especially I manage all our renovations, is like we're spending a lot more money on those renovations than we would have in the past just for the fact that buyers have choices now. And they understand that. Their agents know that. So you have to basically go above and beyond what you normally would. And luckily for us, we would have been flipping since 2017, 18. So we knew what it was like back then. But anybody that started in this recent run up, they're like, oh, just kind of leave that. Don't worry about it. Just paint over it. You don't need staging. You can do the cell phone photos around the corner kind of thing where you see. But nowadays it's like we're back to every house is staged, no matter what price point it's really at. And if it's on the retail market for retail buyers, professional photos, very good landscaping. We're spending a lot more in your kitchens and baths, your style of flooring, your products, fixing a lot of things that these past 2 years you really didn't have to worry about because they weren't broken. They just weren't visually appealing. But now it's like, no, it needs to be visually appealing and be done right. So we've definitely started spending a lot more in our renovations. I mean, to the tune of probably 20% more than what we normally would have spent probably 2 years ago.
So if you're spending more, that means you need to get it at a better price.
Yeah.
Are you finding that to be difficult in this market? Or is it easier in this market? How has that changed?
So I mean, that was another thing the pandemic did for us is that before the pandemic, we were the way we got all of our properties was through our network. So we would buy from wholesalers, realtors would bring us deals, people that knew us would bring us deals. So we were doing great like that. As soon as the pandemic hit, these people were getting a lot more for their deals than they were from us, because we were still buying like investors, and they were able to sell to all these new buyers that came into the market with a lot of money. So we were getting outbid by like 40, 50 grand on one property. We got outbid by $70,000. So I was like, we couldn't compete. So we had to go back into like our wholesaling roots and start marketing again. And what that did is it opened up another can of worms of like, man, we haven't done this in a long time. But what we learned from that, what the biggest lesson we took away is that as an investor, I believe you should never stop marketing for your own deals, because if not, you become a victim of however the market shifts and whatever somebody else is supplying. So now we are generating our own deals. We are our number one buyer, right? We buy most of the deals we generate because we generate what we want to buy. So, we've realized that we've had to start marketing to more, and we've seen the market change. I mean, one of the areas that we've shifted our marketing was now we do a lot of absentee and pre-foreclosures, because if you market to a lot of the homeowners that we were marketing to before, it's like, yeah, I would love to sell, but where do I go? And I'm like, actually, yeah, that's a really good point. I don't know where you're going to go. You got no money. You got no credit. Your house is jacked. So you got some equity.
Even then it's like they get like, oh, you're going to get 40 grand from it. Like, yeah, but what do I do with 40 grand?
Yeah.
That's it. So, and one thing we never did, and I'm glad, and I attribute this to talking to a lot of investors like yourself and people that are around in like 2008 and saw what they've done or what can happen in a bad time, is we always bought on what the house could sell for today. If it was done on the retail market, what could it sell for today? And we know we're in a mastermind group with a guy out of Dallas, and they were buying tons of houses. I mean, at one point when we first met him, he had like probably 50 renovations going on at one time. Huge, big, quite a large operation. But they asked him how he got up to there, and he goes, well, it turns out he was just buying anything at whatever, because by the time we got done with the renovation, it was worth more than what it was. We were able to squeak out. We were able to get small profits. So we had small profits on deals that made sense in the future. So once that future stopped going up by 10, 20 grand every other month, he was underwater on a lot of properties very quickly, and he's trying to work through that log jam, but he's like seen a lot of red on the books because he came into the hot market, and that's how he was buying, and that's who we were competing with. And it's like, I can't compete with you. I'm not going to buy on the predication that it's going to be worth more. It'd be great if it's worth more, but that's not going to be the only way I'm going to make money. I have no margin of safety. One of our other coaches, we work here in San Antonio, that's what he calls his profit. He's like, what's my margin of safety? It's not profit because I haven't sold the house yet. What's my margin of safety that I can afford to drop that price and still not lose money?
Yeah, we never hopped on the cool train of overpaying for projects and hoping the market pulled us out.
Right.
We kept our kind of like our core beliefs in the way we operate our business, where it's like, it needs to make money today. If it made more money later, awesome. That was more money. But it needed to make money as it sat. And that was something that, we just weren't, at the time, we were just getting outbid left and right. So being able to actually bid on these projects ourselves by going directly to the seller, building that rapport. And that's another thing that we see massive shifts is how people approach sellers nowadays.
Are you concerned at all doing a flip in terms of, the market going down, or do you price that in, or how do you handle that?
So yeah, definitely with doing flips and everything like that, as far as where the market is heading, we're not taking on projects really that are over 50 grand in rehab. And we're also, what we're looking at is speed of market. So we look at like, where are the fastest selling price points, the fastest selling zip codes. We want to be in those areas because we know that once we finish the rehab, the property is going to sell quickly because there's demand in that area. So we're not, one of the things that we've seen, Barr pulls up the market data for, all the market data, all the information for San Antonio and most of Texas. What we've seen is like months of inventory shot way up. But when we look at the months of inventory, where they shot up is like the trendy spots, the historic districts.
The expensive stuff.
Yeah, all the expensive stuff, they've gone up 8, 9, 10 months of inventory.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You look in the downtown areas, and the inventory levels are just insane.
Yeah.
And that's one reason why we've never, like, you can make they're like your boom bust kind of areas. Like, you can make a lot of money when it's on the upswing, but if you buy at the wrong time, you can get crushed on the downside. And you look at where our sales volume's at, and it's right in that, like, probably almost half of our sales volume's right around our median price point, like a third to a half, or in that area about. And it's a lot of sales volume. That's why we stick to that price point we kind of always have, is like, I want to go where all the buyers are buying. Profits might be smaller,
And we
but they're
just
more
did
predictable.
it. And we just did it on that one house. We just flipped. We put it on the market. And what were the stats on that
Yeah,
one?
we had like 40 some showings in the first weekend. Would have had 3 offers, but 2 of them were FHA, and we hadn't owned the house long enough. But we would have had multiple offers, and we had 40 showings in the first weekend. And it's just like,
Yeah. And this was a few weeks ago. So this is
Yeah.
not like you're talking about, oh, this is months ago.
Right.
This is recently. But that's where we're buying. We're doing that intentional because we want to know that when we're finished, it's going to sell right away because it's in that price point. It's that quality. It's what people want. So we don't have to worry about it.
and it's not to say I wouldn't. I tell people this all the time. Like, I want medium price and under, but not saying I'm not going to look at something above that. I'm just telling you I'm going to want a better deal if it's over that price point. Even like these older areas, like our buy box right now is like 1978 and newer. But I'll look at stuff below that for sure. It's like, I'm just going to want a better deal, and you might have a chance of finding somebody else that'll pay higher than me. But I'll gladly look at it and just know that you're 75%, 70%. Like, I'm not going to probably buy at that because I know it's going to take a lot more work than you think it's going to take, and I want to be able a lot longer so the price could actually come down. So I want to have a bigger margin of safety for that, and I need to have the profit margin there. So
That's really interesting. I mean, it definitely, this is way different than 2008. Sure, certainly lessons we can pull from 2008, right? I mean, strategies that we can pull out that we pulled out in 2008, but the fact that you're seeing that the middle class is the median households are still where the action is what's so different, because it was such a loss of jobs back in 2008, whereas here people still have jobs, they still work, they still qualify for loans, they just may qualify for less house with the interest rates.
And we still have a pretty strong influx of migration coming to Texas from all over the place. I just saw something the other day. We were sharing an article back and forth, and it was like, I think that's one of the things that saved the Texas housing industry from getting hit worse is the fact that we still have a net positive migration to Texas buying our homes, and we have a low supply of inventory. I don't know if we'll ever get back to quote unquote balanced market because of the way they've regulated things after post 2008. So that is one thing I think has definitely saved us, is our population is still continuing to grow and people still are buying. And yeah, they might not be able to afford the $1 million house at 7%, but they can afford the $350,000 house, and they look at it like, hey, I need a house here. That's a good product at a good price. I can afford that. They'll be the ones that upgrade on the next cycle when they can and prices drop.
Right.
But that entry level price point still good.
I would imagine in a market like this where there is some concern that things could go down in price a little bit. Speed of getting your rehab done is probably pretty important.
That's
And
why, I don't want anything over $50,000 unless it's something that's got like a large margin of safety. It's like, I want to be in and out in 2 months or under for the renovation.
So even a $50,000 renovation, getting that in 2 months is relatively fast, I would say. So what kind of tips, tricks can you give? How do you do that? What's your secret into getting rehabs done that quickly?
For right now, I would say stay away from your massive renovation, your big problems, like your major foundation problems, because those are the ones like you can't start any other work until your foundation is fixed, and you don't know what's going to break when you start that foundation. So like the one he was just talking about, we had some foundation work, but it was just all exterior, real quick, easy, light lift on the outside, and we didn't have to break any sewer lines. We didn't have to do anything, so we can get that done relatively quickly. But if it's a major foundation, looks like a roller coaster on the inside, I'm putting that at this is going to be very expensive, long rehab, because I got to fix the foundation. Then I got to get somebody over to test the sewer lines. They got to find it. Oh, it's broken here, here, here. Then I got foundation guys back over there to punch the holes, dig it out. Then I got to get the plumbers back over there to fix everything. Then the foundation back over there. You can burn 2 months just like fixing that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, that would be the one thing that I would say right now to stay away from, or we are, is like those big renovations with heavy structural renovations. So any additions, any moving of walls, any major structural renovations, I'm staying away from.
And the way that I like to look at it, like what he's saying is like it's level of complexity, right? Decrease the level of complexity of your rehab and it'll move quicker. Because if it's less complex that you don't have to move a wall, you don't have to do anything with framing. Now, you don't need to have a higher quality contractor that knows how to do framing. I mean, in San Antonio, that was a hard position to find, right? A good craftsman that that knows how to work with wood and stuff like that. It's actually pretty damn hard to find. But somebody that can lay down floor, paint, install a kitchen, redo a bathroom, they're much easier to find that kind of labor. So we look at like what labor is easier to manage, easier to find, so we can move quicker, because anything that gets, more complex, there's more moving parts to it. Now you got to find that type of worker that can handle it. Everybody says they can handle it. They get into it and then they leave you hanging high and dry, which has happened to us a few times. And we've done $170,000 renovations, right? So we've done big renovations and we've seen the level of complexities, and it's like, oh dear God, like it's not something that we want to do again.
Right.
And that thing is like $50,000 sounds like a lot of money, and it is. It does not take that much. No. It doesn't take that much to burn through that in a house. Mm-hmm. I've noticed that drastically, like with all this increases in labor and materials, to where $50,000 does not go as far as you think it would in the last 3 years. I mean, $50,000. I mean, you're replacing a roof, maybe an AC, and a cosmetic update of 1,500 square foot house. Like that's $50,000 just like that. Because I've seen some people send me houses. It's like 2,700 square foot 2-story house. Oh, it only needs $2,000 or $20,000 in work. I'm like, for just the paint and flooring,
right.
How are you going to address the 3 bathrooms and the massive kitchen now?
Yeah.
I was like, that's easily going to be like a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 renovation, because you got to scrape popcorn ceiling, you got to do so much stuff.
Well, I think you're hitting a good point too, where it's like you got to know what you're doing, right? There's too many people that I meet that they've never done a renovation and they're getting into a massive rehab. And it's like, but do you know what work needs to get done? Do you know how to put together a scope of work so you can manage your contractors? Right? Because if you hire a GC, everybody's a GC nowadays. Everybody with a drill is a GC. But they don't know how to manage a project. They don't know how to manage multiple contractors at once, how to start different scopes, how to manage the scopes. And luckily, we both have backgrounds in construction and everything. So, like, John puts together the whole scope of work, and he hires individual trades for each scope. So he knows when one's getting finished, queues up the other one, so we blow through the rehab very quickly, instead of, like saying, okay, start here and maybe you do this and then you maybe do here and you skip steps. It's like there's a process to a renovation, right? And we know that process very, very well. So you need to know what you're doing.
Clear, concise scopes of work. Stay away from major constructional stuff right now. And if it's something that you can overlap contractors do it, like I can have somebody doing the roof while I have somebody inside. I can have somebody doing the AC while somebody's doing the roof and working on the inside. So it's like you kind of find trades that can overlap. But if you're doing like major structural stuff, it's like in plumbing, like you really can't do anything until that stuff's fixed, because you can go ahead and do it, but you run the risk of having to redo it once they fix everything. So,
right. So would you say right now then, with this change in market, you are more not leaning towards, but more of your deals now are flips, which I would say is unusual. Most people are scared of flips right now. So, but it sounds like you're more geared towards flips because you can't get cash flow and rentals. There's not, as many buyers out there for wholesale deals. Are you taking more down and flipping them? Is that kind of your strategy?
Yeah, I'd say like it's definitely more flips, or it's something that I sell to the retail market. I put it on the MLS retail market. Like if I'm not going to renovate it, it's like, all right, it's got to be a good enough deal that I can put on the MLS and sell it quick, and to somebody else, and somebody else can take on the rehab. Because once it's on the MLS and somebody else buys it, like I don't care what, I feel like you have agents involved, you have other people, professionals. It's like you should have done your due diligence at that point. I'm not wholesaling it to somebody that trying to just make myself a profit and not worry about them. So it's those kind of flips or the light renovations that we can take down and knock out in 2 months and have it back on the market.
And in San Antonio, another niche that we're seeing become very popular and not only expected to get even more popular is the owner finance strategy, right? So the seller financing, all that, and we see it a lot with properties right at around or under $100,000. So if you can find a property, which there's still a ton in San Antonio, under $100,000 in those areas, we have buyers all day long for those properties. They will snatch those up in a heartbeat because they love owner finance. And right now, in a market that's not appreciating, owner finance is beautiful to do because you don't have to deal with tenants. You're not dealing with anything. You're the bank. So I definitely think moving forward, owner finance, and we'll still pick up some rentals if we happen to structure a good subject to, right? Because right now, if we try to get financing, I mean, at these interest rates, we're not cash flowing. But if we get a subject to with, the 3% loan on it, yeah.
I think that's the great opportunity right now, right? I mean, I think we're going to see more and more of those of 2.75% interest subject to deals.
And something, we were actually at one of the StepStone masterminds, and one of the agents brought this deal, and I was like, that's a great deal for an IRA right there. It was a situation where he couldn't get anybody to buy it because a boyfriend-girlfriend had bought a house together. And obviously things didn't go very well. And they split up. The problem was it was in a new construction neighborhood over there between Seguin and New Braunfels. And they were still building new houses all the way around. And home builders can give some hella good incentives for somebody to buy. And he's like, well, we're like 10 grand, 15 grand less than the new homes. I'm like, you're never going to compete in the interest rates. And he said, but they're willing to do subject to. And he's like, for 20 grand down, yes, you only get and you can still get about $250 cash flow by taking over that loan. But it was a 2-year-old house. Yeah. Like, it's got a 10-year builder's warranty on the dang thing. And all you got to do is put 20 grand down. It's like, in an IRA, you can't touch that money anyways. Put $20,000 down. Get some cash flow. You're not going to have any major repairs for at least another 8 to 10 years on that thing. And over in that area that's going to be very well developed in 10 years. And you were assuming a 3% interest rate. It's like, that's a fantastic deal. No equity, but you're getting something that in 10 years is going to be great.
And I think Will and Veronica were the ones that when they heard about it, they're like, oh,
we'll take that.
Yeah, let's go check that out. They jumped on it real quick. But that's what I'm seeing also more and more. It's like people are not educated, and they say subject to like it's something sexy, but they don't understand the power.
Right.
Like when I'm telling them, like, no, there's a lot of power in a subject to. There's a lot of power in owner finance. Like there's a lot of power there that you just don't think about. They just think it's you buy a property with no money. That's the benefit of a subject to. I'm like, there's a lot. There's the loan. There's the interest. There's a lot.
Everybody says, hey, there's nothing out there but 7% interest rate loans right now. That's not true. You just have to get existing loans right now. Yeah. Huge. Well, it sounds like you guys have been very adaptable to the market and you've stayed on top of it. Any advice or tricks on how to stay on top of the market like that? I mean, you guys have adjusted both your marketing, your exit strategies. It seems like very rapidly. And so what do you think, gave you that ability to do that?
StepStone.
Join StepStone. Perfect answer.
So with that, we end the show. No, honestly, the one thing that I believe in my heart attributes to all of our success from day one is our ability to network. Like people think that this is something that you do on your own, and you don't. We do not do anything on our own. As soon as the market starts shifting, the first thing we do is reach out to our network. Our buyers, the people that are investing. What are you doing? What are you seeing? What's happening? What's not? Where are you not buying? What did you see with this? They're telling us about the things that are happening in the market because they're the ones that are going to tell us like what's going on, right? And we go to networking events and we're hitting these networking events. And we've been going like almost one a week wherever we find a decent one. We go to a networking event every single week and we're talking to these investors. Where are you buying? Why aren't you buying over here? How are you buying your properties? What level of rehab are you looking for? Because they're telling us what they're doing, what they're seeing, so then we can start planning our stuff. It's like, you know what? I actually spoke to this person that he told me this strategy, like midterm rentals. Like you have short-term rentals, then it's the midterm rentals.
What does that mean?
So
traveling nurses.
Traveling nurses.
Anything
big
over
deal
30
right now.
days.
So you have your short-term rental where you have a potential of a really high rent, your regular rental, and your midterm you're getting like that in between rent, right? So it's like they weren't able to cash flow before in a regular rental. it's not quite a short-term rental, but they're like for traveling nurses, for stuff like that. They're able to make, $500-$600 of cash flow because of it. And I was like, holy crap, that's a really cool strategy I've never looked at. Yeah. So, it just opens your mind, because if you try to work your business with what you know, you're only going to do to a certain level. Mm-hmm. But if you get out there and you network and you talk to other people, your mind opens up. And it's like, man, I didn't even think about that, So networking, I think, is we're not the smartest people. We just know how to network.
Speak for yourself.
But even like we always talk about owner finance and wraps, and like my thing is I don't need to learn it because I know you. And I know you know a lot about owner finance and wraps. So I was like, all I got to do is when the market shifts to that, I bring an owner finance deal to you. We'll partner on it.
Please do.
And you
Please
teach, right? And you do that with anybody.
Anybody.
You'll teach them. You're like, hey, here's how I structure the owner finance. Here's how I do the wrap. Here's how we do this. And that's how you learn. That's how I learned. I didn't learn real estate because I had a lot of money. We both started broke. So we had to partner with people. So how do you partner with people if you don't network? So we network, and that's really.
I mean, it's just constantly being curious and wanting to learn and not keeping your ego out of the way. Like, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Like, there's always something from somebody in every room you go into that you can learn. Mm-hmm. Like, go find what that thing is that you can learn from somebody, and you keep that mentality. You go to enough places, you watch enough things, you read enough things. Like, you stay in tune to the market. So like being a part of a brokerage or talking with other investors, like having masterminds, going to them, attending events, presenting at events, like that keeps you in the know, even though you're not even realizing it until somebody asks you that question. You're like, huh, yeah, I have been able to kind of navigate this pretty well. Like, what did I do? Looking back, you're like, well, it's because like as soon as stuff started changing, it was like looking at the market, pulling the data, talking to other investors from all across the spectrum, and being very well connected and networking. And like that's how you can adapt and shift quickly. Yeah. Before things change too rapidly, you're behind the curve buying renovations that you shouldn't have bought because the market's going down.
And we hear that, we've been hearing that lately a lot, and it makes my skin crawl sometimes when they're like, I'm just gonna sit on the sidelines and wait to see what happens. I was like, trust me, you're gonna be late by the time you realize what's happening.
Right.
If you're not in the market doing this, you're not gonna know when it shifted.
Right.
And by the time you realize, people are making money again, now you're trying to catch up to something that's like way ahead of you.
Exactly.
So,
here's something, side note that is really good for like StepStone. So that deal we talked about that we got 40 showings and stuff like that, it was a wholesale deal we bought from another StepStone agent. Yeah. That we had met him at a mastermind, and he called me, said he had this deal, and I was like, all right, let me go take a look at it. And like he pulled off a wholesale fee. We renovated it, we're selling it, making a good chunk of money. So like inside the network and the lender on it's a StepStone agent too. So I was like, it was a full on turnkey StepStone deal from all the way around. So it was
we're big on networking. Cool. Very big.
Cool. We're gonna have to do a deal anatomy on that at next mastermind. That sounds awesome. How cool is that? Get you all there to talk about the deal, how everybody made money off that deal. That's pretty awesome. And this person brought you the deal because they recognized you, they met you in person, they
know who we are.
They know who you are, and they know who you are because you show up. How important is that? I mean, yeah. I mean,
it's like, oh my God,
people can't do deals with you if they don't know you exist.
Yeah.
Right.
Like what's your statistic? Like the people that show up to the masterminds and the conventions and stuff like that is like 80% of the room is the people that do 80 or. What is it like? The majority of people that make the most revenue for StepStone are the ones that are consistently at every single event. They're like by large margin of those people are the ones that make the difference.
I mean, when I wholesaled property back in the day, I was never one to say, hey, I'm going to hold this house open for 3 to 5. I will take the highest bid. It's just not something that I felt like was smart business to me, because I was worried, because I don't want to sell to somebody I've never met or don't know, and I'm not certain they're going to close. Right. And so I would look for deals, and I'd find that deal, and I'd say, oh, I know this person would like this deal, and I call them up and just make the deal, and you knew they were going to close, and it's people I knew and I met through networking events, I met through being out there and meeting people. Such a hugely important part of
your
business.
Name really matters, and it's one of the things, like I've always been told that, and I've been waiting for this scenario that to actually come true, because these last like 6 years, like you could do stuff like that and get away with it, but you develop the reputation of being that guy, right? And like the real investors that are going to be around this for their entire career, they know you, they will always know you as that guy. So when the market shifts and you have no reputation, or your reputation is that you have no real connection with true investors, you're the one that's really going to struggle. And now this market has become that, where it's like your name and who you are matters. And the fact that they know you can close, they know where you get your funds, you're reputable, you have a good reputation, and that holds true. And I think as the market continues to deteriorate for however long that happens, like that's going to become more and more and more and more important, is your name, your brand, and who you are and how you conduct yourself.
Well, and another big key aspect of that is because of that and the relationships you build, we buy all of the properties we own through private funds. We've never used hard money. We've never needed to use our own money. It's all been private individuals that know us and we know them. And we can get a house funded through a text message. You know, like we text our lender and say, hey, we need 250 next Monday. They're like, okay, let me know where to send it. You know, and it's that quick, right? And it's not bragging, it's relationships.
Yeah.
Like it's just we've been working with, a lot of these were our buyers initially, and that we wholesaled them such great deals and we took care of the relationship so well that then they became our lenders. And now we don't have a limit on money that we can use right now. You know, like we can keep buying deals because we have these people that they know that we're out there doing deals, right? Because they see us everywhere. So
Awesome. To shift gears a little bit, I mean, that was great stuff. But, you know, I know you guys really treat your business as a business, you know, not just, and I know that's difficult for people at first. They get into this. It's just them. They got to wear all hats. They got to do everything. How does somebody transition from that? How do they start to treat this as a business rather than just as a self-employed gig, right?
My biggest thing when you start with that way is like separate bank accounts. Don't put all your money in and out of one bank account. You have a personal bank account and a business bank account. Even if it's you personally, but two separate accounts, like all your business transactions come out of one, and that business transaction transfers over to pay for your personal lifestyle. If you can't do that, you're not really running a business yet. You're just kind of doing this for fun. You need to realize that your business is a living organism just like you are, and it needs capital to stay alive. So it needs to be separated. I think that's like one of the first things that somebody could do is you need to realize the distinction and the difference between like where your money flows in your personal and business.
But also at first it's messy because at first especially when you get started, if you get started as wholesalers, I see a lot of them that they're like, you know, oh, I got to get my LLC, I got to get my website, I got to get my business cards. I was like, no, you got to get a deal.
Right.
Like figure out if this is even something you want to do. Right? Like do a few deals, get some money in your pocket, you know, yes, business wise, that's not what you know, whatever for tax advantages. That's not the point. The point is like, is this even a viable business for you? Right? So it starts off as a little bit as a hobby, but once you're like, okay, now I see that, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm good at it. I like it. I enjoy it. Then invest in the business and build the business out of that. But I see a lot of people also too. I did it. The first thing I created was a Series LLC. I didn't even know what the hell it was, but I created it.
Said I needed it.
Yeah, I was like, done.
I've never even had a Series LLC.
So I was sold at an event for it. So it's like, we still operate out of it, so it worked. But it was something that's like I didn't use it for like the first 2 years because it was just struggling, you know. So I think, and he runs all of our finances, so. He stays very educated on, like, you know, one of the books that he loves a lot is Profit First, and they came out with a real estate version of that,
right? Which
is a very helpful book. We have friends that are CFOs, they're CPAs, so we're bugging the hell out of them consistently, you know, and they're showing us best practices, what they're doing with businesses they work with, mistakes they've made. So we try to get as many best practices as we can in our own business, but I don't know if we have a good model because we're always perfecting it. And we're always realizing holes and things we probably should have done. Yeah. But the biggest thing for John that he always brings up, it's like, we just got to get enough for our taxes put aside. Like, take care of your taxes, and then everything else we'll figure out.
Especially now that interest rates are rising, your government's going to start penalizing you on those amounts due.
Yeah. You don't want to owe the government.
Never. Well, I mean, I think that's what's made you all so successful is you're constantly learning, you're constantly seeking information, you're constantly reading, you're constantly talking to people, you're constantly networking to get information and to get deals. But but that hasn't stopped you from going and getting deals. And I see that a lot where people feel like they need the perfect business structure. They need the perfect business setup. And so, let's say I just learned about wholesaling yesterday, and this sounds pretty cool. I want to do it. At what point do I, start trying to find a deal?
So I teach this because one of the things that I started doing recently is actually coaching people one-on-one kind of thing. And we have, a shameless plug. We have a YouTube channel where we teach everything that we do. But what I started realizing is putting patterns together is that you can't market for deals when you don't know if you even have buyers. So I recently got a student that was marketing for deals in an area of Georgia where there weren't any buyers, and he was wondering why he wasn't getting anything done. I was like, dude, you're in the wrong side of Georgia. You got to go where the buyers are. So what I believe in is build your buyers list first. Build a good quality buyers list, and it doesn't have to be big. It's like 5 to 10 good buyers that are buying flips, whatever they're buying, and you do that through networking. Because once you do, they're going to tell you where they're marketing, where they want the properties, what prices, what level of rehab, what they're willing to pay for it. They're telling you everything. So now all you got to do is farm those areas. And what I found is how we got started is like if you find these buyers that they're legit investors themselves, so they can't do the marketing, but they'll pay for your marketing. They'll pay for you to do the marketing, and then you partner on the deals with them because they need the deals. So you don't have money, but they'll pay for you to do it. And that's how we used to do. We used to do what we call lead management was, buyers would pay for marketing in San Antonio, and we would chase them down, get them on the contract and bring them back to them, and if they didn't want it, we'll wholesale it, and then we will split the profit. So I think it all starts with your buyers list. Like build your buyers list first. They're going to tell you what they want, prices, areas of town. So you're not doing what some of the people right now had a few wholesalers bring us some deals on the historic areas. They're like, oh, I got this deal. I was like, no, you got to lead. That's not a deal.
Yeah, right.
Like you're at 280. We need to be at 180. Like you're way off on that property. Oh, how do I get it that low? Like, dude, you got to do your research first. You're just marketing. Somebody said yes, and you think you got a deal. It's like, but your buyers are going to tell you, do I or do I not have a deal? And the best thing, too, what happened with me is like I would get it, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And they're like, I'll go with you. They went with me to the property. They helped me analyze. They helped me understand. They helped me fill out the contracts, right? So it's like your buyers can literally build a business for you because they need your help. And that is finding deals, and that's what you have the time for. So if you're a new wholesaler, build a buyers list. I think it's the strongest thing.
I mean, essentially what you said is you don't really need to know anything. You need to know 4 or
That's
5 good people who are buyers, and the rest will take care of itself.
Everything.
I mean, don't stop learning. Always be learning, but don't let learning stop you from just getting out there and doing it, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, now is your time for shameless plugs. So, I mean, I can't thank you guys enough for doing this. I think that was a lot of great tips, great information. We constantly have to be talking about these things to stay up on what's happening in the market and how we change and how we adjust. And I think that was a lot of good insight into that. So I really appreciate it. But so obviously you guys have a lot of knowledge, a lot of good information that people may want to continue to get from you. So how do they do that?
So the best place is YouTube. An Investor's Journey is our YouTube channel. And we put out a new video every single week on strategies, what we're doing, marketing, what we're changing, market updates, everything gets put on there. So we don't hold anything back. And just for people that want to go faster, I did start doing one-on-one coaching. That's not free. Just want to let you guys know it's not free, but it's just a way to help people go faster with the lessons that we've learned. But yeah, that's pretty much, between our YouTube channel and that, like you can find us anywhere on social media. Search either one of our names. You'll find us anywhere. You can contact us through any platform. We're always available.
Yeah. And if anybody aspiring agents out there that want to do that, I'm like you said, the associate broker for San Antonio. So if anybody's interested in with the realty license, joining a brokerage that is accommodated for these kinds of strategies, you can reach out to me. I'd be your direct point of contact and quote unquote supervisor for those initial transactions and stuff like that. So any other agents that are watching this, you can reach out to me. We can put you in contact and give you more information about the brokerage and everything that it has to offer. Because that's been a monumental piece of our success. As I guess I'm an associate broker now, but when we started, like that was a very large piece to be able to monetize early on, is having a license, because you're out marketing anyways. Not every deal you can get 70% minus repairs, but like it's a retail deal. I can put it on the market. I found a buyer. I mean, I had a buyer just fall in my lap for $1 million house. I was like, that was a $30,000 commission. Like just like that, because I had my license and it took a weekend worth of work. I was like, just because I had that piece, that tool.
Awesome.
And like, if you're just a traditional investor, I can't help you. There just went 30 grand to somebody else.
I mean, the reason we call this podcast MarketProof is I do believe that. I mean, if you have all the strategies that we have as investors, if you have your license, if you surround yourself with other licensed investors, you know, like we do with StepStone, then you really are market proof, because there's not a situation that a seller can find themselves in where you don't have a solution.
Correct.
Doesn't always mean they'll take it, but you always have a solution to offer sellers. So you can meet any seller. You can always make a deal out of that. It doesn't matter what the market is. We need to adjust. We need to talk to each other and figure it out like you guys do. But so again, thank you guys very much. Well, this is a market proof. You just heard why we call it that. As well as being a brokerage, we are also a CE class provider. All the CE classes we do are about investor topics like this, and we do them both live and online. You can find out more about the brokerage and our CE classes by going to StepStoneTexas.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on TikTok. I hope you see you out there. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.